What's good, Team Starlight? We are here today with the exclusive interview of Barcode's Black Garden Volcanic deck that got second place at the recent Ultimate Time Wizard Providence. And we are here with Barcode today. What is up?
Hey, I'm Jonathan or Barcode. I got second at YCS Providence Time Wizard with Volcanic Black Garden.
Now, we also got George and Albert here, but we need to jump right into this because when we saw this deck, we knew we had to reach out to you because this is a spicy one. And on our top 25 most underrated cards, I yapped on and on about how I think Black Garden is a broken card that nobody is willing to play. And we said it would take a true master to come in and just top a major event. And so clearly that's what we have here. Why don't you tell us about the origins of this deck, and also maybe just a little bit about like your origins in the format?
I'll start with my origins. I quit after 2008 Nationals, so Edison is new to me. At the event, that was the first time I synchro summoned in person.
That's crazy.
So I started getting into Goat format during the pandemic, and then one day my brother told me to play an Edison tournament, and he gave me this deck, and I hadn't played in 15 years, and my growing knowledge was not great. So it was kind of a struggle, but I liked the concept. And then I kind of dropped it for a while, played other stuff. And then I got bored of Quick Draw, so I started playing this deck again. Because the deck originally, someone played it at SJC Edison, and they almost topped with it. They lost on the bubble. It went 9-3. So that's where the inspiration came from. And then I played around with a bit, and I think I made it a bit better. And now I think it's a pretty good meta call for Edison, actually. I think it's very good into a lot of decks.
And why is that? You know, we have like the big three that people talk about, like Vayu, Blackwings, Frogs, and then also I think GBs and like combo decks are kind of like entering that. So why is this deck like a good meta call right now, do you think?
First of all, Vayu is very easy. Basically, the more fair your opponent is playing, the easier it is to win, because you're just going to eventually get card advantage and stomp them. So Vayu is like at least 70-30, I think. I have a very
Wow.
easy time with Vayu. Blackwings is advantage. Sometimes they get Whirlwind and you can't destroy it and they win, but I think it's at least 60-40. Frogs is closer to even, but I think it's still winning. You just play a Black Garden anytime they want to do anything. Like Treeborn, you get a token, Monarch, you get a second token, and then the Monarch's smaller than the Koichi, so like what are they doing? All of the combo decks, you play a million trap cards to interrupt them, so it's hard for them to go off.
Yeah, the
And
discard traps is
GBs,
huge.
which is what they played in the finals, is I think the only popular matchup that's very hard. So, but having one bad matchup is every deck's gonna have that.
Right, right. Yeah, and as someone who's played Garden and sided Garden, I remember I would always bring it in against Frogs because, like you're saying, that it felt really broken in the Frog matchup to like slow them down. And, yeah, every time they want to make a play, you get two tokens out of it. So, yeah, that's pretty big. But anyways, like for the, 5-year-olds, like explain it to me like I'm five. What is this deck trying to do? If people don't know, when Black Garden's effect is if a monster is normal or special summoned, its attack is halved, and then the opposite, or the opponent of the person who summoned the monster gets a token that's 800 attack and 800 defense, and then it's got a few other effects as well. But that's like kind of the main core effect. So why don't you tell me like why this deck, what the strategy is, and what you're trying to accomplish here?
So the main idea here is to get card advantage with the volcanic engine. That's much more important than the garden. So volcanic rocket plus shell plus a pot of avarice in your hand is a 3-card +5. Because if you think about it, summon rocket gets accelerator, then you accelerator, use your shells, and kill 3 monsters. Then once you resolve the pot of avarice, you draw 2 cards, shuffle 2 of the shells back in with 1 in the graveyard, search the other 2 with the effect. You're gonna kill another 2 monsters. Now you've killed 5 monsters total. You've drawn 2 cards off the avarice, and you have a volcanic rocket on the field. So of the 3 cards out of your hand, you got your 3 cards back, and you killed all 5 of their monsters. You don't do that in one turn because they don't usually have 5 monsters in one turn, so it takes a while. So that's where Black Garden comes in, because this is a very slow strategy. You can only kill the monsters on your turn. So if they're attacking you each time, you're going to die by the time you do this. So Black Garden forces them to either summon very weak monsters with half the attack, or set their monsters first and give you time to destroy them. So it's just a defensive card that gives you time to use the Volcanics to get card advantage.
And if people don't know, I believe Volcanic Rocket gets its effect while flip summoned, correct? Yeah, if this
Yes, it
card's
does.
summoned. So a big part about Garden is a lot of times you're setting your own monsters, I believe. I mean, I don't know if that's what you're doing,
Yeah,
but
I
setting your
almost never
monsters
summon face off, yeah, with Garden on the field.
right. Because then Black Garden only triggers on normal summons or special summons, not flip summons. So getting a monster like this that is a huge beat stick, like effectively nothing your opponent can summon can run over this unless they're flip summoning it. And then you get the +1 off of this, so that makes a lot of sense to me.
Oh yeah, that's huge. One thing on Volcanic Rocket quick, 1900 attack is massive. Like going from 1800 to 1900 is like a massive deal on Edison. If you think about all the things it changes, instead of crashing with Stratos, it runs it over. Instead of crashing with Gear Firm, it runs it over. It doesn't get walled by Hamster. It trades with Aeolus. It runs over Golquari instead of crashing. That like 100 attack is massive. That's what
Yeah.
makes Volcanic Rocket so good.
One question I know I've seen pop up is why 2 Blaze Accelerator? Because this card is searchable from the grave. So I guess maybe you're worried about it getting like banished with like Caius or something, but why 2 instead of just 1 if it's not once per
Yeah, that's
turn?
one reason. When I first saw the deck from 2010, that was the first thing I caught as the second one. And the more I played it, I realized he was right, you need to. So there's a few reasons. One, as you said, is Caius. The second one is if you have it one of it already, either on the field or stuck in your hand, you want to be able to summon Volcanic Rocket to search another one because you have so many discard cards, you want that
Right.
+1 in your hand. So it's very important. And the third one is just having a fifth copy is good because you just want to see it. It's a good card.
Very true. Not bad to just draw raw with a volcanic shell. And then yeah, talk me through 6 discard traps. I mean, I think it's pretty self-evident, but you're running the volcanic shells, you're running the thunder dragons. Why triple wing blast over like maxing out any of the other ones?
Discard traps are good in general. One, because we have so many good things to discard. And two, because Black Garden starts a chain when monsters are summoned. So if they summon Dark Arm Dragon, for example, they don't get priority. So you can just discard trap and they never get to use the effect. So having these chainables is very important for the deck. To stop Judgment Dragon, Dark Arm Dragon, that kind of stuff. So you want as many as possible. Then Wing Blast is the most important one because people will make Stardust Dragon against you a lot to stop Accelerator. And you want to Wing Blast that instead of Gageki Break.
Also, just spinning them back a turn with this kind of a deck seems like really brutal. If they, because people have to like set monsters into Black Garden, I imagine, and so like if you just wing blast their set monster, that's like putting them back 2 turns. That's crazy.
Yeah, you can just stop them doing anything relevant.
Let's talk about the side deck. So it's a lot of one-ofs, but you got the triple breaker, double fossil dyna, or like what do you want to talk about on the side deck?
We'll start with the Breaker because there's three. The Kree is basically impossible to beat because you play a ton of traps, and if you look in the main deck, the only way to beat or resolve the Kree is making Arcanite Magician with Gale or using Descendants effect. It's pretty bad. So any deck you think is going to side into Kree, you need all three Breaker. And the second reason for Breaker is against Vayu, they're going to side in deck devies. So you want to side out a bunch of your flip effects and put in Breakers. And if you think about all the traps Vayu is going to have in game 2, they're going to have Dust Tornadoes for your Garden. They're going to have Deck Devi. They're going to have Royal Oppression to stop Garden. You're gonna have deep prisons and stuff. You just summon Breaker, pop it, attack a Raiko, and you get a +1. Against Black Wings, you need ways to kill Black Whirlwind as well, and you also need to side up more deck heavy targets. So those are the three reasons you want Triple Breaker. Fossil Dida, there's two of them. Against any kind of combo deck or frogs, it's good. It's particularly good because you don't need to protect with traps. If you just go Fossil Dina, Black Garden, they can't summon a monster bigger than it. So it's just safe. All of the one-ofs are interesting. There's only so many cards you can take out because there's kind of a big engine here, and you have to keep your monster count high for Pot of Avarice as well. So that's why there's a lot of one-ofs. Another reason is Gold Sark. A lot of matchups, if you have like Black Guard and all your other stun cards, there's only so much they can do anyway. If you just Gold Sark for the right floodgate for each matchup, it can kind of stop them from doing anything. So one of each floodgate is there.
Wow, I just glossed right over the sarcophagus. Like what in
Yeah.
game one, like what are you often sarking for?
So you need Accelerator and Shell to play the game, that's very important. So if you have Shell, you search for Rocket. If you have Rocket, you search for Shell. If you have both, you search for Pot of Avarice, you can get your card advantage. If you've already gotten a ton of card advantage and you have your whole Volcanic engine going, you just get a Solemn and you stop whatever they're gonna do. And then game 2, usually you're getting the card advantage cards, but sometimes you get the Floodgate.
Right,
Gold
right.
Shark was one of the things I added to the deck, and I think that made a huge difference. It's very, very good.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, like you're slowing down the game state, so like the two turns they don't like feel as impactful. I feel like.
Another interesting card is Transmigration Prophecy. So people compare this to DD Crow a lot. In this deck, it has the added benefit of you can just shuffle in 2 volcanic shells, and then search them again, and then kill 2 monsters. So it's kind of a janky spell speed one, treacherous trap hole. Or you can use it as a DD Crow and interrupt what they're doing. Or you can shuffle one of their things in and 1 volcanic shell and get a +1. Or you can like stop a miracle fusion or something like that. Transmigration is especially good in this deck. Kaiku is cool as well. If you have Black Guard now, you can just summon Kaiku, give them an 800 attack token, your Kaiku's 900, and you can just run over and mess up their graveyard. And there's not much they can do about it, even if they have like other monsters on the field. You give them the token to run over.
Oh, I also just noticed Consecrated Light. That has an interesting interaction with Black Garden, right? Because the tokens are dark, right?
Yeah, so tokens won't be summoned anymore. They can't go summon monsters anyway, so there won't be any tokens.
Yeah, okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough.
It's just
Um,
a gold Sark target against Blackwings.
for the extra deck, not much of note here, other than I imagine, yeah, the Arcanite, like because you run Gale plus the Gravekeeper engine. Is there anything you want to touch on the extra deck, or is it just kind of like good
Uh,
synchros and Chimera tech?
yeah, we play Gale as the only tuner, and we have a bunch of level 1s with Shell and 2s with the tokens. You can kind of make any level, but you almost never synchro in general. When you do, it's like 80% of the time Arcanite. Sometimes you do use the Black Guardian second effect, get a Thunder Dragon back, and make like a Stardust with Gale. That's kind of cool. Like 5 times I made Mistworm with like a level 3, or with Gale plus a level 4 plus a Rose token. And Mistworm can end the game. Like maybe 3 or 4 times I've done that. And I don't think I made any of the other cards a single time. So
I was actually just about to ask you that. So you did. Another interaction is that Black Garden can pop all plants on the field to summon a monster from your graveyard whose attack is equal to the sum of all the plants that you popped. So it's usually just the garden tokens are 800. So yeah, I noticed that right away that Thunder Dragon is 1600. You can summon it back. How often did that ever come up in at the UTW?
came up once at the UTW.
That's
I
awesome.
had 2 tokens and I got Thunder Dragon back and I played a new Black Guardian from hand.
That's sick. You could also, have you ever brought back Gravekeeper Spy off of
Yes.
Gigaplant?
Not off Gigaplant. I've done
okay.
Titanio to get a Dekoichi. But one way you can get Gravekeeper Spy is if there's 1 token on the field, you summon Gale, give them a second token, Gale have the token, get a Gravekeeper Spy, and use the Gale on the Spy to make an Arcanite.
Oh my god. That's
I love
filthy.
that.
That
Yeah, I
comes
was
up a lot.
curious against like the plant matchup how often that actually comes up because it seems like you have a lot of monsters that can just randomly come back from certain plants if you're playing against that matchup, but I don't know if it's like not as realistic to expect things like that happening.
Titanio, Dekoichi comes up a lot. I haven't played much since Gigavise got popular, so I haven't done it to Gigaplant yet, but against Imriels, I've done Dekoichi off of Titanio a couple times.
I
That's
love
about
that.
it.
So why don't you tell us a little bit about the tournament itself? Like either if you want to go through all the rounds or just like notable rounds in the top 8.
Round 1 was Blackwings. Round 2 was Blackwings. Don't remember which one was which, but one of these guys opened 4 Black Whirlwinds over the 3 games, and I still won.
Wow.
So won both of those. Round 3 was Vayu, and Vayu's a pretty easy matchup in general. Round 4 was my only loss in Swiss, was to Hero Frog. Game 1 I drew no playable cards basically, and then game 2 I was going to win if I got there's a complicated block guarding wrong we don't need to get into. There's a disagreement of how you resolve it. And at RBET, if I got the RBET ruling, I would have won game 2 and would have gone to game 3. But Konami has a different ruling, so I
Okay,
lost
okay.
that.
We can always cut it out, but I need to hear the ruling because I'm like a Black Garden enthusiast. So what was the
Okay.
disagreement?
So if a monster is summoned and then Block Garden triggers, and then I say bottomless it and it leaves the field before Block Garden resolves, do I still get the token? This is very relevant. It comes up pretty often, and at SJC Edison, they ruled it for the guy who like got the feature match and stuff that you still get the token, but that was like technically incorrect, kind of like the quick draw thing. So now Konami's trying to like retroactively not do that, just like quick draw. But at RBET and all of the community events, you do get the token. That ended up
Mm.
changing things all of that game. I would have won game 2, and then we would have gone game 3, and maybe I could have gone 8-0 instead of 7-1, but it's actually a pretty big deal. So that is a lot better at like RBETs than it is at Time Wizard.
Yeah, I heard there was a lot of like weird disagreements on rulings at this
Yeah,
particular UTW.
yeah, that was the only one I had. And I understand why they got that one. I was kind of expecting that going in, but round 5 was against Lightsworn. We went to game 3. I opened double Thunder Dragon. He opened charge, triple recharge. I
Oh
had a
my
Wolf,
god.
a Plague, and a Nico Gardner. And I ended up going down to 50 life points when he was at 7,800, and I won that game.
Did he deck out?
No, he was about to. He had like 3 cards left in deck. It was a weird situation where I had Wing Blasted his Gores, and I couldn't attack because I would die if he dropped the Gores. So I had to like Gold Sark for Fossil Dyna, and I eventually got the Fossil Dyna and killed him.
Wow.
But he would have decked out if I didn't get the Fossil Dyna anyway. Because I had like a Psalm, a Starlight Grove, Karma Cut, a Black Guard, and like 3 monsters on the field. He couldn't do anything. But eventually I got there. So that game was crazy. Round 6 was also against Lightsworn, and I won that. That was 6 and 7. I think round 5 was also round 5 was against Blackwings as well. So those were round 6 and 7 were the 2 Lightsworn. And then
Okay.
round 8 was against Gigavise. And I won that. I don't think anything too notable from any of those other matches. Top 8
How
was
did it
against
play into Gigavice? I'm just curious. Did you get to like resolve Garden before they comboed and it just like made it really awkward for them, or how did that kind of play
uh
out?
game 1. I had a pretty fast draw where I had like Spy into Get Descendant into Card Trooper, plus like I think I stopped the only thing he did with some trap cards. I won in like 3 turns maybe. Game 2, he went first in like a crazy combo. I broke his board, but it took like my entire hand. He was still left with like 3 or 4 cards. And I just lost over like 5 turns. Game 3, I had like Fossil Dyna plus a ton of trap cards. And I got him down to 1,000. And he eventually drew Heavy Storm into Lightning Vortex to clear everything. And he tried comboing, but I had a DD Crow. And he was stuck at
Oh
1,000. I
my.
just summoned the Spy and finished him off.
Damn, sounds like an epic game. That's like,
Yeah,
and that was the game to top the event, right? Because if you lost that, you
yeah,
might have bubbled. That's awesome.
yeah, that was on the bubble. Yeah, I think it's pretty good into Gigavise. You have so much interruption, but I've only played a handful of times. Top 8, I played against the Des Gokula Blackwing deck, and ended up winning that.
Yeah, this seems pretty good into that. If they set Desakuta, you just
Yeah,
go Accelerator.
yeah. Top 4 was against Vayu, which is one of the best matchups, and I won that pretty. Game 2, he dropped that like turn 2, and he killed me before my like turn 1 Gold Star could even resolve. But games 1 and 3 were pretty easy. I just slowly got card advantage and won. Then finals was against GBs, and people can agree that feature match if they want. Game 1, he couldn't get anything going. I had chaps for everything he did, and I killed him in a couple turns. Game 2, I was winning very, very hard. He was at 3,000, and I had like 4 cards, and he was just top decking. He top decked Cyber Dragon to kill my Kaiku, which was like, I think the only card in his deck that would have not only stopped me from killing him, but put him in an advantage, and I drew like 4 or 5 dead cards in a row. And then game 3 of the finals, he just drew like a perfect hand of like stuff to make Gyzaris, plus my body's a shield protected and a ton of trap cards, and I just couldn't beat it.
Damn, Cyber Dragon. I wouldn't even expect that to be coming in against this deck, so that's crazy that I won him that game. That's still an amazing run to get all the way to the finals and then only be losing to your worst matchup, which kind of gets me into another question I wanted to ask you, which was like, are there other future changes you would want to make with this deck, like either in the main or side, like hedging in the side maybe more against GBs, or just maybe the main in general, like anything you overperformed or underperformed?
I want to add Sangan and the Glory of Darkness. I'm not really sure what to take out. The list is pretty tight. I've been playing with it for a few hundred matches, and I've tried a bunch of things, and I can't find a way to change anything in the main deck. The side deck, there's a couple cards that could come out, like the knock isn't that important, it's just a way to make your value matchup even better. There's a couple cards you could change, but for the most part, I just run this again.
What about what about the Night Assailant? I know this is probably just too important with all the discard traps and the card D.
It's not the most important card, but yeah, you do have 7 ways to discard, and it's a free discard, so I think it's worth playing.
Right. Okay.
At worst, it's a man-eater bug, which is whatever.
I was curious if you've tried using Black Garden in just like other builds, because I feel like this card is super flexible. So like we've seen it used in like Garden Frogs with Rownick, and I've been trying to come up with ways to like what other cards could synergize with this, but I'm curious if you've tried any other like techs that you thought were maybe interesting but needed more work.
I've tried a bunch of variants of Volcanic Block Garden and just a card advantage shell, but no like other versions of Black Garden in general. Once I made the deck, I'm like, this is how I want to play Edison. I played maybe a few hundred matches with it. I played maybe 5 matches with other decks since I made it. So I'm just happy with this.
Hey, I mean, I respect that. Everyone in the team knows I'm a Hero Frog one trick, so I'm on the same path.
Or have you ever had a problem when you don't draw the Black Garden? Or is it just kind of like you're playing like a normal deck that can still function without it? Or how essential does it feel to your strategy?
It's not that big of a deal. You could play Terraformings if you needed it, but I don't think it's worth it. Like, you can just summon Volcanic Rocket and it's bigger than their guys, and then if they try and summon something bigger, you have trap cards. So it's or Accelerator. Like, you can just still defend yourself and get card advantage without it. It's just the best defensive card there is.
Right. Because I thought about like maybe it's worth going like 2 Garden, 2 Terraforming, so you just like see it more often and then it thins out your deck or something to that effect. But yeah, I think like your deck isn't really fully dependent on it, even though it is like a big win condition. It's not like the only win condition.
I have one more fun question. Black Garden has a ton of rulings. I'm wondering if you have any stories of a very niche specific ruling incident revolving around Garden that you can think of.
So at the Ultimate Time Wizard, I told you about the round 4 thing with the Hero Frog player. So it's debatable whether or not you get the token if the monster leaves the field, based on which judge you get. But during that judge call, the judge told me the monster's attack has to be halved. So if the monster's summoned face down by, say, Hamster or something, you will not get a token. And this is like universally understood to be wrong. So that night at the hotel, I went and found a bunch of rulings, and I showed him that morning. And then I came up in top 4 where I attacked the hamster and I got a token. And I changed the judge's mind that morning. And so he agreed that I did get the token. And that was like very big for my top 4 match.
Yeah, I'm looking at this. There's a functional errata on this card where the Edison accurate errata does not say if it just says if a monster is normal or special summoned, half its attack, and if it's and it says also if it's still on the field, even if face down, you special summon a monster or a token. So I don't know.
Yeah, so
like
understood,
the second part is still interesting, but yeah, the face up thing is like an errata issue.
Yeah, and then I had like 2022 version, so it did say the wrong text, and I had to try and tell the judge that.
Oh no.
It was a whole thing. But I
That's
did get
crazy.
the correct thing for top 4, and that was important, so.
Any final thoughts on this absolutely based deck? I hope to see more people experimenting with Garden in general, but yeah, any final thoughts on the deck?
I guess one weakness of the deck, if people are looking to beat it, is cards that stop all of your defensive cards without triggering Starlight Road. So Heavy Storm's an issue, but you just have Starlight Road and Judgment. The cards like Giant Trunade and Cold Wave are very, very hard to beat. Just having one copy of those in your deck is pretty good, because the games will sometimes go 20 turns, so you'll draw it eventually, and then you can go crazy one turn and beat me. So that's a good way to beat the deck if it gets popular.
Yeah, we'll cut that out though, so that nobody knows how to beat Black Garden, because
Yeah,
we
sure.
just wanna see Black Garden grow. So, no, I'm just kidding. But anyways, congrats again, Jonathan, on second place finish. Love to see innovation in this format, and glad that you were there to bring this spicy deck to the top.
Thanks for having me.